Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm pleased to have Dr. Sean Sharp with me tonight, and we are going to be presenting some research that we provided for this webinar. Is your practice being stressed by technology? So let's dive into that this evening. First, I want to introduce Dr. Sharp. Hello, Dr. Sharp.
Hi, how's everybody doing tonight? Thank you so much for joining us. A little later evening for us East Coasters, but welcome aboard.
So Dr. Sharp and I have been working together for a little over a year now. Dr. Sharp is owner of Minster Dental Group in Minster, Ohio. He's been in practice for 25 years, and he is a clinical trainer for many of the large corporations that you might know. He is also a member of the American Dental Association. And thank you, Dr. Sharp, for working on this project with me. A little bit of introducing myself. I do work for Midmark Corporation in their clinical affairs department. I have been a registered and certified dental assistant for a little over 30 years, and just wanted to reach out to everyone tonight to let you know about a new certification in dental, which is the Certified in Dental Infection Prevention and Control. So take a look at that if you have a moment, as well as this evening's webinar. So this evening we wanted to just talk a little bit about technology in dentistry. We all know that we're learning new things, new products are coming online all of the time. Especially in the last 20 years, we've seen automated charting programs, we've seen changes in materials, obviously digital radiography in the last few years has really ramped up. We now work with lasers and microscopes and all kinds of really neat innovation in dentistry. And we just wanted to take a look at how these things might be changing not only your practice, but also your team. So we have things like CAD/CAM that many of you are using daily. We have software that we're trying to learn. We have newcomers, right? We have AI coming into our radiology world. We do have some robotics for surgery. And every piece that we add adds a little more complexity to our dental day. So most of you have cone beam technology in your office. If not, it's certainly something we have to look at on a daily basis. Our CBCT imaging certainly brings a next level of complexity. We love this technology. It's becoming kind of our standard of care with our patients. It impacts our patients' treatment, and it's certainly technology that many offices either have or long to have in their office. So we have all this technology, lots of cutting edge stuff coming our way, lots of solutions. And what these solutions are supposed to basically give us on our day-to-day is to streamline our workflow and provide this faster, easier experience, not only for our team, but also to provide better care for our patients. So as we're looking at this as a team, right, these should be helping us with our day, helping us expand treatment options, providing quicker turnaround for our crown bridge implant therapies, and hopefully increasing our bottom line, right? That's why we buy these products and try and implement them into our practices. But the real question to this is, are they helping us? And if they are helping us, at what level and at what cost? So we just wanted to take a look this evening kind of on the backstory of technology. So what happens in real life? What's happening in our lives, in our practices, in dentistry in general, in our world in general? So we wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of a background where we were and what's kind of happening in this technology space. So we talked to 200 clinicians in our survey, and we'll break that down a little bit more. But of those surveyed, the prevalence of anxiety, stress, just in the population in general, just in our normal lives, is up from what was perceived as an 11% coming out of COVID. 11% of the population said they had, more stress or increased anxiety in their lives due to COVID pandemic. We're now up to 42% of people saying that their lives have been changed and are more stressful. So that's kind of where our starting point is. So I know most of you have kind of heard about this added stress, the Great Resignation, quiet quitting. It's all over our social media, all over our journal articles and things that we look at. It's quite interesting that back in April of this year, Gallup polls did a poll, and of the U.S. employees in healthcare, and I'm just going to really kind of focus in here on healthcare. We see that U.S. employees actively saying they're actively engaged in their work was at 34% last year. We're down to 32% this year. But really, I wanted to take a look at this healthcare statement where the largest decline in the engagement was found in healthcare professionals like ourselves. So a 9-point drop year over year, which is quite significant. I think as leaders in our offices, whether we're the doctor, we're an office manager, lead assistants, lead hygienists, we really need to think about the mental status of our team and what might be happening outside of our office. And how engaged our employees are. So just wanted to share that this evening with everyone. And so we already know, I don't know where you're all listening in from, but I'm here in Michigan, and we are really struggling here in Michigan to retain assistants, retain hygienists. I probably get a call a week. Do I know anyone that's looking? Do I have students that might be looking? So it's really becoming quite a healthcare crisis in the dental field to get assistants and hygienists into our office. And then once we do hire these great teammates, how do we keep them there? So we wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of a bird's eye view into what we found out. But we wanted you to have this background. So we really need to start considering the impact of all these additional work stresses on top of our everyday team stresses. Anyone that's worked in a dental office for very long knows that we have the ordinary everyday time management, patient stress. But now we're going to talk a little bit about how adding technology can really exacerbate and make it so that we see these resignations, these quiet quitting scenarios. So the purpose of our research, our survey, was to really dive deep into the impact that technology, especially new technology that was implemented into the office, and what type of workflow changes that were happening, and how that impacted how the teams performed, what type of stress levels they were at, and just that overall feeling of stress with new technology. So we surveyed 200 dental professionals that included dentists, dental hygienists, assistants, administrative teammates, just across the board and across the country. And what we found out was quite interesting. And so, Dr. Sharp, can you walk us through these results and walk us through some of the things that we learned during this survey.
Sure, Lisa. First off, I want to say that, you had to mention Michigan. I actually said the name, so yeah, I'm in Ohio. So you know how that goes, right? But we do get along, so it's okay.
That's right.
I think when we got our paperback, well, I know, it was an eye opener. Being in the field and being a trainer as you are, and talking to doctors around the country, and from our experiences with them, you hear doctors talk about these stresses that impact their practice, and it can be anything from practice management to implementation of new software, new technology. But to actually get this down on paper was pretty interesting. I think when you look at what we try to accomplish, we started out by saying, let's just establish that we're actually having a problem here. Is it really an issue with certain offices? We say technology stress, and that stress can come from outdated technology, things that are antiquated that you're still using within your office. It can be implementation of new technology that, the doctor goes out, the old adage, they go out on the weekend, they bring it in on Monday and say, guess what I have? And that can add a lot of stress to a dental office. So we started looking at that, and the results were kind of neat when we look at this slide. Especially, after the impact of COVID kind of threw everything off for everybody. They're definitely stressed out. But, the things that jumped out at us are, when you ask about, do you actually measure stress in your office? Do you actually take a measurement? Is that considered success? 53% of the respondents said that, yeah, low stress is a measurement within their office. But on top of that, and if you look at the flip side of it, 25% of them said they're more stressed now than they were even with COVID. Even with COVID going down, they're still stressed out. So we know there's an issue. And then we start looking into what may be causing it, if technology is given any part of that. And then we asked, we looked at if technology, whether it's outdated or lack of training or implementation, could have a negative effect. Can it really have that? 39% of the dentists indicated being more stressed during the workday due to either their software, their equipment not functioning correctly, or if it's not functioning, how do they fix it? How do they get it back up, with the proper support, or can they do it themselves? And 24% listing the lack of training as the main reason for not retaining clinical team. And that was sort of an eye opener to me. That 24% of dentists reported that they couldn't keep team on board because they didn't have proper training for them. You can move on there, Lisa. So what that brought us to our results of this whole thing, and the thing we started seeing from all these respondents was that sometimes technology can bring an unexpected burden into your office, whether you like it or not. And me, as the owner dentist of a very high-tech office, we've got everything. We got every bell and whistle you can think of here. Sometimes you don't realize what the team has to go through once you implement these new technologies. And we'll discuss a little later here what we feel is a probably good approach to bring these technologies into your office. But some of these responses, these are just a few that we picked out, I thought were pretty interesting. Yeah, you look at some of, I always wanted to implement new technologies to help streamline the day, but struggle with getting all the team members up to speed despite our training. The main issue I have is that more of our day is spent facing the software instead of people. And I've heard that plenty of times. Older equipment and the current software are not completely user-friendly, and technology is integral, but difficult aspect of our practice. And these are just a few that we picked out of just hundreds of comments that we had from these participating respondents. And it was very interesting to see these responses. And again, as an owner, you sometimes bring these things in, you don't realize the impact it has. You can get the next one there. So choosing the right technology for your office, I think the biggest thing that we've come away with, and Lisa can chime in if you have anything you want to add, Lisa, is as a trainer, I think the first thing you have to do is really sit down and create a plan with your team. And what you really want to accomplish with your practice. What is the right amount of technology? And I'm not one of these people that sit there and a doctor says that you must have the latest and greatest to be a great clinician. It's very far from the truth. Very far from the truth. But if you are going to start getting into the technology sector and you want to start implementing some of these things, I think you need to look at what's the good fit for your practice. You want to improve your profitability and enhance patient care. Of course, it's what it really boils down to. We want to always enhance our patient care and what your practice needs. sometimes selecting that software equipment, if you get every bell and whistle that's on that software, sometimes it's a little overwhelming for your team and your staff. Sometimes you might be the only one in the whole practice that knows how to use any of those things. And I don't feel that that's very efficient for a practice. It ends up being more of a burden or a chore than the intended goal, which was to relieve some of the stresses that a normal dental practice has.
Dr. Sharp, one of the things that I hear, and you're right, it becomes a little overwhelming. And I deal with students quite frequently, so I'm kind of expecting them to be a little overwhelmed their first time out. But what I found that they come back to me with is that there is no additional training after the fact. So they might be out on an externship, or they're new into the practice. And after the piece of equipment was sold, there's no more resource for them to go to. The day's too busy. Maybe the lead assistant has gone since that technology was put into place. And so can you comment on how you handle that in your office with new teammates? Because, as you said, you have lots of technology in your practice, great technology. How do you utilize either existing people in the office, or do you do that training yourself? I know that's quite a big chore.
Well, I think every office is a little different, of course. And whether you're part of the DSO world or if you're not, I think it all boils down to being able to disseminate all that information to multiple people within your practice. We have 35 employees here and counting doctors, over 40 people that on a day in and day out are using every piece of technology you can think of, for whether it's practice management software to Cone Beam. And I think the biggest thing I come away with all the time is just making sure everybody's up to date on everything and having multiple people able to actually handle it and work with that technology. If you don't have multiple people, then you just mentioned a second ago, if someone's missing, or that main assistant that you empowered to be the person in charge of your printer is not there that day, who's doing the printing? So I think the biggest thing for us, we take new employees right off the bat, and usually, and we'll go to that here in a minute, we'll go through a few things that we do, but I think it's a smart idea to get them partnered up with someone that is knowledgeable in the software, that knows what they're doing with the software or technology, whatever it's going to be, and have them partner up with them. And we're really big about that here. We do a lot of, I guess you would call it OJT, on-job training. So if you don't do any of these things, if you can't get your team excited to be on board with this stuff, we're going to end up with and if anybody out there has ever been around training or seen offices like this, or maybe it's your office, you end up with one of the most expensive pieces of what we say, either a dust collector or modern art that you've ever had in your practice. Because what will end up happening is that it sits in a corner and either uses a coat rack or it just gathers dust. We always say that, again, that the team sometimes can be resistant to some of these things you bring in, and then this is what happens with the doctor doesn't go forward. But I think the first thing we do always is get the team on board. It'll be months out before we're ever thinking about a purchase. I will start laying out what we're looking at, what we want to do with it, and why we're bringing that in. You do a lot of homework. You really do. I think you can't go to your team and say, hey, I'm looking at a Cone Beam. What does that mean? Some of them don't know what a Cone Beam is. And so we make sure, even from administration on down, that they understand what that is. So we do a lot of homework. I meet with a lot of dealers, manufacturers, and really compare systems and see what they bring to the table. We call that a sort of a digital treatment plan, no different than what we do as a dentist, or as your team does when you're doing a treatment coordinator or whatever you have within your practice. You have to have a plan, and you have to go from where I'm at today, where I want to be at the end. It's no different than doing a full mouth rehab. For some patients, they can't do that all at one time. So we spread it out. How do you do that within your practice? And now you have to ask yourself that. If doing guided surgery is where you want to be at when you're all said and done, well, there's a few steps along the way. Do we have to get intraoral scanner? Do I have to get involved with that? Do I need a Cone Beam then? Do I merge these two technologies together so I can create those guides and now I can do my guided? Do I have my proper implant training to do that? So there's a lot of questions you have to answer for yourself and your practice. I think the big thing for us always is finding a good supplier, a good manufacturer, and then really pick their brains about what they're going to supply, give us in return. Things change all the time. You cannot keep up with this. And some days your software is changing all the time. Whether it's your practice management software or your Cone Beam, and you really need to have a support system in place. You have to find a good company that's going to do that for you. Are they going to come in for a day training, 2 days of training? Do we travel to you? There's a multitude of great, at least you're very familiar with some of these places that you can go get trained by these companies.
It's true. Yeah. I think you're right in that training and in the follow-up. It's not just a one and done, that you have that resource, you have that network in place for questions, for staff turnover, and that you do pick technology that's useful but not overwhelming, because 90% of a lot of this technology is your team using it. As you know, and you and I talk about this a lot, it's your hygienist using this, it's your assistant using these types of things. So quite important for everyone to be on the same page.
I always say, don't ask me to take a Cone Beam. I don't even, I know how to turn it on. That's about as far as I can get on it. So, or take a pan or Ceph or anything like that. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I don't. I probably did at one point, but I don't anymore. And your team is the one that's going to be involved with this all the way. So, kind of how we talked on this. Larger offices, and maybe it's larger offices, maybe smaller offices. It doesn't matter what size you are. You may have to train your key personnel first, and then disseminate that down. We're really big about that. We do have leads for each piece of technology we have. They're in charge of it, so to speak. But that doesn't mean if they're missing or if they're ill, or around here right now, it seems like everybody's having a baby. We've had like 11 babies born this year. It's crazy. So, you got maternity leaves. You got to be prepared for that. And we are. We handle it pretty well. I think offices are, especially as maybe not so much on the DSO world, but maybe on a privately owned world, it's very resistant to, I know I run into it, that they don't want to close down an office for training. I used to be that way too. I was, well, what for? Let them come here. We can spend an hour or so and let's go at it. I've changed my tone on that, especially some of the systems that are out there today. It's better to get everybody on board, go through it and really learn it, because down the road, it's really going to help you more than hinder you. The other way around, if you hodgepodge your training, no one ever gets on board with it. And that's when I get called in as a trainer to help. And some offices you walk into, the second I hit the door, I know where we're at with things. It's usually not good. I don't know if you had any experience with that, Lisa, or not.
Yeah, can you elaborate? Have you found, I know for myself being a trainer, and I do travel and go out to offices and help with patient care and implementing technology. Have you found that having a live patient component is better than maybe a virtual training? I know a lot of companies now kind of gone to virtual training. I think we all went there, and then because of COVID, and we never went back. Do you find that having a trainer in your office is a good thing? And do you think it's a better experience for your team?
I think in my opinion on that, and it's just my opinion, I think it's a marriage of both of those today. I think you still need hands-on. I'm a hands-on person. I mean, I need someone to, smack me around and show me how to use it. But I think a hands-on trainer is great. I think it's something that some companies are moving away from. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think you still need boots on the ground, so to speak, and they come into your office. And because every office is different, the dynamics are different. And you get a vibe as a trainer, what's going on within that office. On the other side of that, though, to have the virtual part of it, if for backup, if it needed, is great. I like that part today. If sometimes, I don't need the trainer to come here to tell me something, but boy, it'd be great if I can face to face someone and figure that out. And at least this too. I mean, a lot of the softwares today, they just remote in anyway. You don't need a trainer for that. When it comes to the team, though, yeah, I think boots on the ground, someone in the practice really helps a lot. So yeah, I'm kind of big on that. I think companies that offer that yet today, I think are a plus. I think it's a positive.
Great. I love how you say here on this slide, be ready for the digital waterfall.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you from my experience, that's how it works. If you really look at one piece of digital, we call it the digital waterfall or digital creep. You may start with it's for our practice, for instance, you started with practice management software. Well, that led to digital radiography, which is incredible, right? We jumped in with the lasers was the next thing we got. Then we got into CAD CAM dentistry. Well, CAD CAM led to, well, maybe we want to do guided surgery and cone beam. And now we got cone beam. Now we got a printer. So you have to be ready for that. I think patients today are starting to expect it a lot more. Not that you're a bad dentist, you don't have it. That has nothing to do with it. I think what it is, though, is they get online, they see everything that's out there that's available to a dentist. I get asked about robotics all the time. And there's no way in the world I'm going to have one right now. It's just not me. It's not our practice, but they're out there. They gain a lot of attention. So my implant patients always ask, hey, you're going to get one of those robot things to use on me. Because, it's way better than I can ever do, right? But
Right.
yeah, but you answer those questions, people see that stuff. So you have to be ready for the waterfall or the creep, as I call it. Yeah, for sure. No question.
So let's talk about the other side of that, because all of the technology, right? I think dental people we're super geeks, right? We love that technology, but the other side of it does come with some common problems. Things like who's going to maintenance it, the training piece we were just speaking to, having teammates that aren't on board. So I mean, let's just talk about some solutions. And I love how we talked before that it can be a really great thing, but can be a little bit overwhelming to some. So how do we provide solutions to that? Well, and you said this, Dr. Sharp, purchase from US quality manufacturers that are going to give you that reliable customer service. Perhaps that training in office or virtual component, that hybrid component you were speaking to, and that they're available. I think that for any teammate, like I said, I've been a dental assistant for a very long time. I was always the one that seemed like on the phone, fixing, repairing, talking to the reps, talking to my dealers to try and solve the problem. And so I really needed them at that moment. So I think it's really important to think about who and where you're purchasing this technology from, and to make sure that understanding is that they're available when you need them.
I think it's really important for sure. I think doctors tend to go cheap sometimes on certain things. And I think when you're bringing, and it's okay if you're going to save a couple pennies on gauze, go for it. That's cool. I like that. That's good. But when it comes to something like this, I think you need to find someone that's really reliable. I agree 100%. And if it's a few extra dollars, but you know what you're going to get out of it, I wouldn't even hesitate on that.
Yeah, I agree. We're never going to get away from our stress of our lives, our stress of our dental lives, the interaction, but we can control the purchase of our equipment and whether or not we're purchasing ease of use solutions. So I think that is one thing that the doctor can help control in the practice. We might not always be able to fix the other stresses, but we can certainly control what we're purchasing.
I think the systems today have gotten a lot easier to use. And we talk about bells and whistles. Most of the companies out there are streamlining things. As a doctor, I just want to hit a button and go. Okay, I want, and help my bottom line and help my patients. It's just what it comes down to. I don't want to. I want it all easy. We can't always get that. I mean, sometimes cone beam, you got to be able to look at some certain things and work through radiologists and things like that. But I think they really tried to streamline a lot of that, like you said.
I love how you were talking earlier about making sure that you keep up on the training and refreshing your skills and working with your team. I wanted to touch base a little bit because I know you had some interesting stories about teammates, even after you did the training and did everything right and, you know, worked through all of that, you had some interesting stories about your hygienists and such. Can you share that?
Sure. Yeah. We here I am talking about all the stuff we do to so we don't lose employees. But yeah, I had a couple. We've had it happen. I just recently had one. I had a young hygienist came in and it sounds terrible, but I feel that all young people just run circles around me with anything technology. If my phone has a problem, I'm grabbing my kids because I'm lost, right? And you kind of take it for granted that the younger generations are just on top of it. She was a incredible hygienist. I mean, she was with us 6 months. We normally look at the 6 month window. At that point, we're going to sit back down and we're going to have a discussion how things are and how they feel in our practice. Are we good fit? Is the marriage good, right? And it wasn't. She was overwhelmed by everything that our practice brought to the table, where it's IV sedation, taking out their molars all the way through to all the technology that we offered. It was overwhelming, and she decided it wasn't for her, and went to a practice that I know that isn't even close to what we have, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, it's kind of a kick in your tail a little bit because your ego gets in the way a little because you're sitting there thinking you did everything you possibly could to train, and then a young person says, "Nah, it's not for me." And you got to take that. It is what it is. On the flip side of it, I have senior veterans who have been with us for 40 years plus, they retire, that have embraced the technology. I did lose one. One was just too much for her. She also, you know, had a hard time turning on a PC. But most of my staff that's been with us, or our team that's been with us this long, have embraced it. So you get a little bit of everything. But yeah, like I said, it was a little smack to the ego there.
I know you're a good leader, so I'm sure that was.
We try. I think you to discuss this about the resistant employee, and you will have that. And if there's an owner doctor or admin people out there, they're going to know who they are. You're thinking it right now inside your practices, who is going to be resistant to anything you do. Just like the slide you had up from Robin Sharma. It can be ugly at first. That's why you have to really prepare your team for these new implementations. I've run into resistant employees and through training, I run into other offices, resistant employees who are, it can be either a covert operation where they're just going to try to undermine the doctor all the way. The typical person like that, it's like, well, he's excited now, but in about 2-3 weeks, we'll go back to normal. And they just don't accept the change. Sometimes it can be organized. I've run into that where the whole team just wasn't on board, and that's a rough one because how do you convince everybody? Usually, though, what I see in practices, and mine included, it's typically one person. And again, Lisa, you as a trainer probably running that yourself, I would think.
Yeah, there's seems to be always one in the crowd, right? But that being said, you know, we do have to kind of step back and understand, you know, it's not only just the dentistry and the technology, but we also have to get into how everyone's going to learn things differently. They're going to learn at their own pace. We have different learner profiles. Someone might need to spend more time with the trainers. They might need to have pre-work that they've done to kind of get the idea in their head before they actually get their hands on it. You yourself said you're kind of a hands-on learner. Some people don't know what type of learner they are, so it makes it very difficult. So I'm a huge proponent of bringing in an expert, bringing in someone that understands all of that when you purchase your technology, and just making sure that the time is spent and that the ideas are reworked or the training is modified to fit everyone's learning style. I loved what you said earlier about partnering team members together, experienced with the novice. I think that's very important. And then, of course, the ongoing training. And so let me ask you this. How often are you having training sessions on your technology?
Not enough.
It's never enough, right?
No. It depends what we're doing. Usually we have team meetings Oh gosh, we meet twice a month minimum. Depending if something else is coming up, then we'll have a team meeting more than that. If we're doing a big purchase, or if it's going to be changing the workflow of our practice, and we want to implement that. So I don't think you can have enough meetings. Of course, we're no different than anybody else that's listening out there. We still have to be profitable and run a practice, right? And you don't want to take off so much time, but at least twice a month we're going over something with the team. Again, I think as a leader, you got to be. You mentioned everybody learns differently. You have to be supportive of everybody in your practice. They're your team. This is what's making you what you are. You have to be supportive, and you have to walk the walk. I always say that. I mean, if you get a piece of technology just because your competitor down the road has it and you're not really into it, it's going to sit in the corner and going to gather dust.
Yeah. So I really want to open up this to teammates, doctors that might be kind of working through or trying to get through the implementation of new technology. And feel free to ask questions along the way. We are monitoring the Q&A board, so if anyone has a question, feel free to put that into the chat. So Dr. Sharp, I know we've talked. One of the things that we wanted to do is to make things easy. And I really wanted to just kind of circle back on that a little bit about what easy is, because what's easy to me might not be easy to the next person. And I think as a leader, that's really important to understand. Do you give testing, personality testing, any type of learner testing to your new employees?
We do. And my office manager handles all that. I couldn't even tell you what it is, but we do. You have your type A, type B personality, whatever it all is.
Right.
Part of that is how they learn. Are they visual? Are they hands-on? How they, and you got to remember that when you're approaching your team with new things. Yeah, we do. We're involved with that for sure. I think it's a good match that way too, because if I got to partner two people up and they're both alpha, and they got to learn together, that may not go so well. So you got to kind of think about that a little bit when you are partnering them up for sure.
I love that you do that. I think that's really important. So I don't have any questions right now in the chat, but feel free to go ahead and share those, and we can help or discuss anything that the listeners out there would like us to discuss.
Hey, it's a blank screen.
I know. Oh my goodness. Go back to one. Anything else, Dr. Sharp, that we can
No, I think for all the dentists that are listening out there, I think you just got to be careful what you get excited, get your team on board for sure. But I think the survey that we did was really an eye opener that sometimes as the dentist of the office, you bring things in and you don't realize that you actually may have a negative impact to your practice. And I'm not saying that's everything, and I'm not saying it's every practice, but you have to be ready for that if it does happen. I remember the first day we had a printer that we brought in, and I think everybody looked at me like, "Why?" Today we print is just hundreds. I mean, it's nonstop because we do aligners here. The cone beam, though, I think that was the most scary part that we ever got. Today, the companies today's the cone beam has gotten a lot easier. And I think that's the key. I think that you're seeing that, especially for anybody that wants to get in on an entry level type of cone beam, it's a lot easier today than when I got in on it. You don't have to be a NASA engineer to run it. And they've made it a lot easier, a lot simpler to get scans out. If you want to get guides made, whether you're using a third party or yourself, it's gotten so much easier.
Sure. So we do have a couple of questions, and I think we have a couple of minutes to answer them. One of the questions from Ryan was, what was your best tech upgrade? And what was your most recent tech upgrade? And how well did that go?
I would say my best tech upgrade was the cone beam for sure. We were already in CAD CAM. CAD CAM for us, we've been using a long time. and that has a very big impact on your practice. But I would say the CBCT was probably my biggest impact I've ever seen, just for the fact of misdiagnosis for things that we're doing so much more surgical aspects that we didn't do before. Guided surgery, we just didn't do that kind of thing, and my team really embraces that now. Not that I'm a radiologist, would never say I am, but I can look at them and I know when there's something not right. And to get radiology reports, it sounds intimidating, and today it isn't. Actually, we can't wait on those things for certain patients. You just got to get these things. I would say the cone beam had a large impact on my practice, without a doubt. The most recent thing we have is upgrade our printer, and again, that printing is not for everybody. Not everybody's using it, but I don't think we could take that away from our practice right now. So that was our latest piece of technology we have.
Awesome. So we have a couple more questions here, and this is great. And I can think of a dozen over my clinical years. The question is, any tech that you have regretted purchasing? Which one was your, I used to call them, you called them dust collectors. We used to call them coat hangers.
Oh my gosh. I have to think on that. That one catches me off guard.
Well, that's good. That sounds like you're happy with most of it.
Yeah, I can't say nothing I really regretted. I mean, I think it's because we slow as we go. We don't do analysis to paralysis with anything, but we do a lot of research before we get it. So I think we've really never run into an issue where anything I've totally regretted. There's been a few pieces of equipment I've had that I've regretted the support I got. And I think that's probably more disappointing than anything. If it's breaking down, I'm not getting help with that. That's frustrating for anybody. And I think that's more of, I could say that more than I totally regretted the piece or the equipment.
We have a doctor in the Q&A that's made a comment that was very similar to your experience in your office, where they brought a lot of technology into the practice, CBCT, lasers, all the implant surgeries, but they really had their staff shut down. Some even quit. Very similar story, to what you had, and he had to start all over again. And they're in that training process. So anything that you can share, or we can kind of sit here and commiserate with their stories, because we've heard that before. Anything you can say to this doctor that's helping retrain his staff?
Well, beyond a lot of bourbon, that's usually the most key you have. Again, you've got the vision, you know what you want to do. The right people, you'll find the right people that are going to help you get to that vision. I'm in a small town, rural America, in a 21 operatory office. Oh my gosh, you told me 20 years ago I was going to do that. You had a vision, and we stayed with it. So I think for you, it's going to get better. You gotta go the path that you're looking, and keep with your vision of what you want for your practice. I don't have a magic button to push to help you. Losing team members like that is tough. It really is. But embrace it. Make sure that your new team members really get brought on board, and that you get them excited about it. Show them what these things can do. And if you have to take a day to get them all on board and reset, which you probably already did, I'm guessing, then that's what needs to be done.
That's great. Thank you. Another question we had was, how difficult was it to find new employees after the one left your office? Because you're the tech, heavy office. Was it difficult to find a new employee to take their place?
I'm lucky, I guess, and it's all I can say. We really didn't have a major issue with it. Especially with all these maternity leaves we're going through right now, we're hiring even temp help. We've been blessed in that area. I haven't had a major issue finding good employees. Again, rural America versus the city is a lot different right now, and I know wages on down, and what some of the DAs are asking for and things. It's tough. It's really hard out there. My friends that I teach with in the cities are having a little different experience than I am. I've been lucky, but I know it's out there. I know it's tough. It's hard. you hate to get in a bidding war to get a good employee.
Yeah, yeah. There's a comment made too in the chat box here that they purchased a CBCT. They've got this technology, but it is eating dust, is what this person states, because they didn't have training appropriately. So just wanted to reiterate to really be looking at manufacturers and your distributors and such, so that you know what is offered and what's out there. There's
Get
some
on the
really
horn.
great,
Yeah, you get on
yeah,
them. You
yeah,
deserve that. And even before you purchase it, make sure that you know what you're getting, and find a company that's going to back that up and take care of you for sure.
yeah, great. That answers most of the questions for this evening. I appreciate working with you, Dr. Sharp. We do have a white paper that we've written on this subject. You can reach out to your Midmark representative or go to midmark.com to go ahead and read that white paper on this technology and how STREST does have those research results in it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, if you guys want to go look at that, it's awesome.
Thank you for everyone's time this evening.
Sure thing. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to talk to you soon.